So what do you have as the sales revenue? Sorry, what when you minus, you are getting which figure? So this one is 608. You do the same for the next one, which is F. So for F, you also take 232, subtract additional processing cost, which is 128. So when you take 132 minus 128, the difference is which value? $104. The sum for T. So when you take 240 minus 8, you are getting 230. $232. So get this total, add those total together. So add those totals together. So get the totals. How much is that total? So the total is 976. So we also need to come up with the total joint costs. We also need to come up with the total joint costs. Also come up with the total joint costs. The first one is the raw material costs. Raw material costs. So for the raw material costs, there is 268,000. There is also initial processing costs. It's also the initial processing cost, which is 264. There is also conversion cost. So get their total to come up with the total joint cost. So what should be the total joint cost? 7,3. So normally, if there is a normal loss, so this is the total cost. So we normally less the scrap value of the normal loss. Scrap value of the normal loss. But this question had no scrap value for the normal loss. We normally subtract. So if we get now the net joint costs, so that we get the net joint costs. So which is supposed to be 7. So once we have done that, we need now to apportion those particular joint costs. So we should now get the apportionment of the joint costs. So we now come up with apportionment of the joint costs. So you want to apportion based on that net realizable value. So you start off with C. So C, you take 608, divide by the total, which is 976, multiplied by get the value for that. You do the same for F. So F, it will be 104. 104. Also divide by the total. Multiplied by 732. Also apportion to T. Also S. So you get those total, you get the joint cost for each product. So once we have done that, now we should be able to prepare what is supposed to be the income statement. So we now prepare the budgeted profit statement. We now prepare the budgeted profit. Now do it. So we now prepare the budgeted profit statement. So there is product C. There is F. There is G. C. So we start off with the sales revenue. We start off with the sales revenue. So sales revenue for C was 768,000. For F, it is 232,000. 232,000. For T, 32,000. For S, it is 240,000. S is next to 240,000. So now we less the joint costs. We minus the joint costs. So C, it was how much? So C, I've seen 456. 456,000. For F, I've seen 78. 8,000. T, 24. Then S, 174. Then we also less further processing costs. Also less further costs. So further processing costs are the additional costs. Additional processing cost for C. The question gave me 160,000. F, it is 128,000. T, there was no figure. For S, it is 8,000. So when you subtract those two, is when you get the profit or loss. Yes. Yes. So come up with the profit or loss. Come up with the profit or the loss. So see, I can see 152 F26. Can see 840. Then S, I've seen 58. So that is now when we use the net realizable value to apportion the joint cost. So now we go to the Roman letter 2. Roman letter 2, they say that currently the intention is to sell the product to without further processing, but to process the other 3 products after the split off point. Then note number 3, they have said that an alternative strategy is being proposed. An alternative strategy is being proposed so as to sell all the 4 products at the split off point. So when you check that note number 3, they want now to sell them at the split off point without further processing. So if this was done, the selling price obtainable will be as follows. So they have given you the selling price per unit. So now we can apportion Although we can apportion the joint cost using the sales value. We can now apportion the joint cost using the sales value. So we want now to solve B, we say using the sales value. Using the sales value to apportion the joint cost. To apportion the joint cost. To apportion the joint costs. So you want now to use the sales value to apportion the joint costs. So when we use the sales value to apportion the joint cost, we need to calculate. They have given you the new selling price. They were able to give you the new selling price. You start with product C. You start with product C. So C, the output in units are 400,000 liters. At the 400,000 liters, in the note number 3, the selling price per liter is 1.28. 1.28. So you get for me that figure. Then you do the same for F. The same for F. So F, it will be 90,000. So this one will multiply by 1.60. The next one should be T. This 5,000. So this one will multiply by 6.40. The last one will be S. So this one will be 9,000 multiplied by 20. So how much do you get for C? C is giving you which value? So 512. F should give us which figure? So 144. Then T should give us which value? T is 32. Then S should give you which figure? S is 180. So get their total. Get their total. Get their total. So 868. So we are apportioning the joint cost among the products. So we start with C. So C, you get 512. So we had computed the total joint cost. So just remind me what was there as the total joint cost. Just remind me what was there as the total joint cost. Total joint cost was 732. So get the value for that. We do the same for F. F, it is 144. Also divide by 868. Also T. So once you are finished that apportionment, now we prepare the budgeted profit statement. So in the budgeted profit statement, you start off with the sales. You start off with the sales revenue. So C, it is 512. F is 144. T is 32. Then S is 180. Then now you less. So the sales we use this one that we have just calculated. Now we less the joint cost. Minus the joint cost. So joint cost, how much is there for C? Joint cost for C, you got how much? I've seen 456. Someone else has given me 431. What should be the correct figure? Is it the 456 or 431? So it is 431,779. 431,779. How about F? F, you got which figure? F, I can see 121. 121. It is 121. 140. 121. It should be 438. Also get the 140. So T should be which figure? So T is meant to be 269,986. 269. It 62, 69. Then the last one is I've been given 151. 151. 151. 797. So they had said that when we use this method, there will be no further processing cost. So simply subtract now to get the profit or loss. When we are using this method, the question specified there was no further processing cost. So you subtract, then you get the profit. So that you come up with the profit or the loss. So get the profit or the loss. So I want us to add there a paragraph. I want us to write there some additional notes. So a new paragraph, we can summarize that. We can summarize that. The following factors will be considered. The following factors will be considered when selecting. The following factors will be considered when selecting the most appropriate method. When selecting the most appropriate method. When selecting the most appropriate method of allocating the joint costs. The most appropriate method of allocating the joint costs to the products, of allocating the joint costs to the products, of allocating the joint costs to the products. So number one would be fair allocation to the joint products. Number one would be fair allocation to the joint product. Fair allocation to the joint product. So when it comes to fair allocation to the joint products, we summarize that the method selected should be the one that fairly allocates the costs among the joint products. The method selected should be the one that fairly allocates the costs among the joint products. that fairly allocate the costs among the joint products involved, i.e., it should be able to give the true value of each product. It should be able to give the true value of each product in terms of the costs. It should be able to give the true value of each product in terms of the costs. In terms of the costs. Then number two, the factor number two should be output in quantity of the joint product. Output in quantity of the joint products. Output in quantity of the joint products. The output in quantity of the joint products. So under that, we write that the method should recognize the quantity produced. The method should recognize the quantity produced and allocate the joint costs. The method should recognize the quantity produced and allocate the joint costs. And allocate the joint costs. And allocate the joint costs based on the output. Allocate the joint costs based on the output. Based on the output. So number two, we are saying output in quantity of the joint product, where we are writing that the method should recognize the quantity produced and allocate the joint cost based on the output. Allocate the joint cost based on the output. This allocation is appropriate. This allocation is appropriate. This allocation is appropriate. Where the value of the product, is significantly different. This allocation is appropriate. Where the value of the product is significantly different. It is significantly different. So we go to number three as the sales value at the split off point. Number three is the sales value at the split off point. Sales value at the split off point. The sales value at the split off point. So for the sales value at the split off point, we say that where the sales value of the product can be established, where the sales value of the product can be established, where the sales value of the product can be established at the split off point, at the split off point, at the split off point, comma, the joint costs should be allocated. The joint cost should be allocated using the sales value. The joint cost should be allocated using the sales value. Should be allocated using the sales value. The number four will be net realizable value of the product. Number four will be net realizable value of the product. The net realizable value of the product. So under the net realizable value of the product, we also write that the factor should be taken into account. The factor should be taken into account. The factor should be taken into account. The factor should be taken into account where the joint products are further processed. Where the joint products are further processed. Where the joint products are further processed before they become the finished products. they are further processed before they become the finished products. They are further processed before they become the finished products. So that is now all about that portion. So that will also conclude the topic of the process costing. That will also be able to conclude the topic of the process costing. So I want us to start a new topic. I would like us now to start a new topic as cost, volume, profit analysis. I want us now to start a new topic. We start now a new topic as the cost volume. Cost volume profit. That's the same as CBP analysis. As the cost volume profit analysis. Now look at the cost volume profit analysis. Now look at the cost volume profit analysis. Cost volume profit analysis. Or simply the CBP analysis. So we can introduce something brief on that by summarizing that. This is a model used to determine. This is a model used to determine the break-even point of the company. It is a model used to determine the break-even point of the company. To determine the break-even point of the company. Then we continue by writing that at break-even point, total revenue is equal to the total cost. At break-even point, total revenue is equal to the total cost. Therefore, there will be no profit or loss. Therefore, there will be no profit or loss. Therefore, there will be no profit or loss. Then we continue by writing that above the break-even point, the company will be making profits. Above the break-even point, the company will be making the profits. It will be making the profits. And below the break-even point, it will incur a loss. And below the break-even point, it will incur a loss. And below the break-even point, it will incur a loss. So let us now have assumptions of the cost volume profit analysis. Assumptions of the cost volume profit analysis. Assumptions of the cost volume profit analysis. We now look at the assumptions of the cost volume profit analysis. So among the assumptions are the same as limitations. Remember, assumptions are the same as limitations. Assumptions are the same as the limitations. So number one is that selling price per unit, variable cost per unit, and the total fixed cost. So you are saying the selling price per unit, comma, variable cost per unit, and the total fixed cost. And the total fixed cost are assumed to remain constant. Are assumed to remain constant. Are assumed to remain constant. Are assumed to remain constant prior to the period of analysis. Are assumed to remain constant prior to the period of analysis. Are assumed to remain constant prior to the period of analysis. So number 2 would be linearity function. Linearity function. So number 2 will be the linearity function. So under the linearity function, we summarize that the profit function, comma, revenue function, comma, total cost function, the total cost function, comma, variable cost function, variable cost function, variable cost function, and fixed cost function, and the fixed cost function, and the fixed cost function are assumed to have a linear relationship. Are assumed to have a linear relationship. Are assumed to have a linear relationship to the volume of cells. Are assumed to have a linear relationship to the volume of cells. When you say I'm lost, me, I don't know where you are lost to. You rather tell me where you are not getting it clear. If you tell me I'm lost, I don't know where you are lost to, so me, I'll just continue. I will not be able to assist at that point. The second point I've repeated so many times. I talked about linear function, and ikaanza kusema profit function, comma, revenue function, comma, total cost function, comma, variable cost function, and the fixed cost function are assumed to have a linear relationship. Are assumed to have the linear relationship to the volume of cells. That is all that I've been saying. So that is now about linearity function. When it comes to linearity function, we are saying profit function, revenue function, total cost function, variable cost function, and the fixed cost function are assumed to have a linear relationship to the volume of cells. So we got the point number 3. Number 3 is that supply is equal to demand. Supply is equal to demand. Supply is equal to demand, and therefore there will be no opening or closing stock. And therefore there will be no opening or closing stock. And therefore there will be no opening or closing stock. Hence, it is a zero inventory model. 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 The next one is that cost can only be divided. Cost can only be divided. The costs can only be divided into fixed and variable components. Costs can only be divided into the fixed and variable components. cost can only be divided into fixed and variable components. The next one is that the sales volume is assumed to be the sales volume is assumed to be the sales volume is assumed to be the only measure of the activity. The sales volume is assumed to be the only measure of the activity. Is assumed to be the only measure of the activity. The next one is that the production technology is assumed to remain constant. The production technology is assumed to remain constant. Is assumed to remain constant. The next one is that the technique is applicable within the relevant range. The technique is applicable within the relevant range of the sales volume. The technique is applicable within the relevant range of the sales volume. The technique is applicable within the relevant range of the sales volume. The technique is applicable within the relevant range of the sales volume. Relevant range of the sales volume. Therefore, it applies for a short period of time. Therefore, it applies for a short period of time. It applies for a short period of time. The next one is that for the graphical analysis, only one product will be analyzed. For the graphical analysis, only one product will be analyzed. For the graphical analysis, only one product will be analyzed. Then another paragraph is that the CVP analysis model, a new paragraph. The CVP analysis model is categorized into two models. Is categorized into two models. It is categorized into two models. It is categorized into two models. Number one will be the accountant model. 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 So for the accountant model, you note that under this model, there is only one break-even point. Under this model, there is only one break-even point. Under this model, there is only one break-even point. There is only one break-even point. And it can only be computed. And it can only be computed for the current period. And it can only be computed for the current period. And it can only be computed for the current period. Then we continue by noting that this can be represented using a diagram as follows. This can be represented using a diagram as follows. This can be represented using a diagram as follows. This one is the fixed cost. That will be the variable cost. Then this one is the total cost. This one will be total revenue. So this part will be break-even point in value. This one is break-even point in units. So I'm saying this will be the fixed cost. This one is the variable cost. That will be the total cost. Then the other one is the total revenue. The total revenue. Then this one is break-even point in units. The other one is the break-even point in value. This other one is break-even point in value. So this one will be the loss region. This one will be the profit region. Loss variable. So once you finish, let me know. Once you are finished, you let me know. Have you finished the drawing? So we go to the second model. The second model is the economist model. Number 2 is the economist model. So we got number 2 as the economist model. We got number 2 as the economist model. So for the economist model, we summarize that under this model, comma, there is only there are 2 break-even points. Under this model, comma, there are 2 break-even points. Under this model, comma, there are 2 break-even points, i.e., during the growth stage, i.e., during the growth stage of the company, i.e., during the growth stage of the company, during the growth stage of the company, and the decline stage of the company. So during the growth stage of the company and the decline stage of the company. Therefore, in this model, the break-even point, therefore, in this model, the break-even point can be computed. The break-even point can be computed for different periods. Therefore, in this model, the break-even point can be computed for different periods, i.e., during the growth period and the decline period, i.e., during the growth period and the decline period, 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 during the growth period and the decline period. You want to present it in the form of the diagram. So once you finish, you add a paragraph by noting that the following variables will be used in the CVP model. The following variables will be used in the CVP model. The following variables will be used in the CVP model. So the first one, number one, will be P. So number one is P. So P, you write there, it is the selling price per unit. So P will be the selling price per unit. Then number two is B. So B is the variable cost per unit. B is the variable cost per unit. B is the variable cost per unit. Then X X will be number of the units. X will be the number of the units. Then F. Next one is F. F is the total fixed cost. F is the total fixed cost. Then S. S is meant to be the sales revenue. S is the sales revenue. S is the sales revenue. T is the target profit. So T is the target profit. T is meant to be the target profit. Then CM. CM will be contribution margin. So that CM is the contribution margin, and it is equal to P minus P. So CM is the contribution margin, and it is equal to P minus P. The contribution margin is equal to P minus P. Then there is also CMR. So CMR is the contribution margin ratio. CMR is the contribution margin ratio. Is the contribution margin ratio, and it is equal to P minus P divided by P. The contribution margin ratio, and it is equal to P minus P divided by P. Then there is also VCR. So VCR is the variable cost ratio. VCR is the variable cost ratio, and it is equal to P divided by P. So the variable cost ratio will be equal to V divided by P. V divided by P. Then another paragraph is that using the above variables, comma, the CVP model is presented as follows. Using the above variables, comma, the CVP model is presented as follows. 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 So we start with number one. Number one, if you are given the cells in units. So number one, if you are given the cells in units, that's the same as X. So if you are given the cells in units and you want to compute the profit, so profit will be equal to P minus P, then X minus F. So profit will be equal to P minus B, then X, then we subtract the fixed cost. So that's how we'll be calculating the profit. Then also to calculate break-even point. Break-even point in units. Break-even point in units. So break-even point in units, it is supposed to be given by F divided by the contribution margin. Remember, the same as F divided by P minus B. break-even point is F divided by CM, which is the same as F divided by P minus D. And also the cells in units for the target profit. The cells in units for the target profit. Cells in units for the target profit. So cells in units for the target profit is the same as X. It should be equal to F plus T divided by CM. So when you want to get the cells in units for the target profit, so it is simply the fixed cost plus the target profit, we divide by the contribution margin. Divide by the contribution margin. Divide by the contribution margin. So that is when you are given the cells in units. You can also be given the cells in value. You can also be given the cells in value. You can also be given the cells in value. You can also be given the cells in value. Also be given the cells in value. So if you are given cells in value, so to get the profit, so the profit will be equal to, so the profit will be equal to contribution margin ratio multiplied by S. Then we minus F. Then when you want to calculate the break-even point in value, break-even point in value, it will be the fixed cost. We divide by contribution margin ratio. Break-even point in value will be given by the fixed cost. We divide by the contribution margin ratio. Then, when it comes to C, you can also get the sales value for the target profits. Sales value for the target profit. So sales value for the target profit is the same as S. So it is the fixed cost plus the target profit. We divide by the contribution margin ratio. Divide by the contribution margin ratio. Also, remember the contribution margin ratio plus the variable cost ratio should add up to 1. Then also, margin of safety, should be equal to actual or budgeted sales. Actual or budgeted sales, we minus the break-even point sales. So we stop there. When we meet now, we should be able to do some questions from there. So we are going to stop there. When we meet, we shall now get some questions in relation to that.